Hey up everybody, I hope you're well and you've had a good day. This is my first video in the dark, so it shows it must be getting autumn because it's not midnight, I promise. I'm just sat actually waiting to go and do something for myself for a change rather than sat waiting for Amy. But it's midweek self-care is always good. But before I go in, I thought it was about time I did part 3 of the rules and rituals and routines that anorexia make us stick to, and this little brief chat is about, wait for it, drumroll please, doo-doo-doo, food shopping. Hooray! That wonderful, lovely thing that we all love to hate in anorexia recovery. I don't know about you, I'm sure you all totally get this, but food shopping and I had a very, very different and quite difficult relationship during recovery. It didn't have a difficult relationship when I was totally entrenched in my illness because I didn't acknowledge or have insight into the fact that I was having trouble food shopping. I just thought everything was easy breezy. But when I started to get insight into my illness and started to acknowledge the behaviours and the routines, blimey, did things really start to kind of shoot up and appear from nowhere to do with food shopping. Food porn. That's the only way I can possibly describe it. I would spend hours in a supermarket walking up and down the shelves, searching for things, looking for things, picking things up, reading labels for hours and hours and hours on end. I remember one occasion stood at Tesco, and you know they do the fresh bakery section at Tesco, and I was just stood, and I haven't got a clue how long I'd been there, but this little titchy tiny old man came over and tapped me on the shoulder, and he just went, "You can buy one, love." And at the time I remember just going, "Oh yeah," and walking off. But God, when I think about that moment, I must have been literally standing there licking my lips at the thought of these croissants and Danish pastries that I wasn't letting myself have. I still haven't. That is on my next hit list, that part of Tesco anyway. But food shopping in general was a real biggie. You have to food shop, you have to do it. It's an absolute must in adult anorexia recovery, either because you've got family or because you've got responsibility for yourself. Then there's no one necessarily going to be able to do it for you. Saying that though, the first thing I had to do with food shopping is I did have to get support in terms of handing it over to somebody. As soon as I acknowledged that it was a problem and acknowledged that there was some serious difficult challenging behaviours going on within supermarkets and any food shop, there came a point at the beginning when I really committed to my recovery, so January, February time in 2019, that my husband just had to do it. I just couldn't do it. I would freeze, or I'd come home with nothing, or I'd be out most of the day. So we had to have a rule where I just wasn't able to food shop. I was buying bullshit food, and it was making me go into too much of a spin, and it was too much to food shop and then come home and have to eat as well. So the eating was the main thing. So the first thing that I did was I handed over responsibility for a little bit, and James did all the food shopping for us at home. Obviously that's not sustainable. I'm a grown woman, I have to be able to food shop. So as always, I worked with my occupational therapist with this. And the initial thing that she investigated with me was lists. Now, I know that food lists and shopping lists are really good for people, and I know that it's actually good from just a budgeting sense to write a shopping list. That dude, that fella that does Bake Off or whatever, he talks about shopping lists. Greg Wallace, that's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, but for me, lists were just made it even worse. It prolonged it in terms of I had to think about the list first. So either the list was a constantly growing thing on my fridge that was just every time I opened the door I was like adding stuff to, and the list was getting huge, or I had to physically sit and write the list. Well, how the hell do you write shopping list when you don't know what to buy? How the hell do you write shopping list when you're also trying not to future plan? So I was trying my hardest to get out of having to have every meal and every snack planned in advance at this same time. So writing the lists, they were no good for me. They didn't work at all for me. So what we did try is that the family would write the shopping list and then I would go into the supermarket. But again, it was taking too long. I couldn't choose. The same old stuff was just going on. So the big thing, the one thing that I 100% recommend that you do is that we created a shopping list at home, And then I set a timer on my phone, so I only gave myself 20 minutes. Now, anyone try and do a shop in 20 minutes, and my word, you're flying around that supermarket. And what would happen is I'd start off with my trolley, and as soon as I got my trolley, I'd press the timer on my phone, and it would buzz, just vibrate in my pocket, so no one thought I was crackers in the supermarket if I didn't look enough crackers enough already, staring at packets and picking things up a million times. Anyway, so I'd set the buzzer, and after 20 minutes it would go off, and wherever I was in the supermarket, the rule was I had to just go to the checkout and buy whatever I bought. So what happened is that the first few weeks I was getting to like aisle 2. My trolley had raspberries and broccoli in it, and then getting to checkout, and it wasn't long before my logical brain was like, this is ridiculous, you're a grown woman, you're spending all this time, you're spending 20 minutes in the supermarket, and all you're coming out with is some raspberries and broccoli. So then over time it was almost like I sped up because the first bits got easier. So aisles 1 and 2 became easy, that easy breezy, shoved them in. Oh, aisle 3 and 4, that's new, so that's taking a little bit longer. So then I had my fruit, my veg were done in the first 2 aisles, and then the third aisle in Tesco's like the yogurts and milk, and the fourth aisle's like cheeses and cold meats and things. So it was like the first 4 aisles were quicker, and then after a few weeks of that, then suddenly aisle 5, 6 and 7 became quicker, and before I knew it, I was doing the vast majority of a food shop in the 20 minutes. I then took away the list. So because I'd got used to being in there at speed and got used to the sort of things that we were buying, I was finding that the behaviours, because of the speed challenge, the behaviours of picking things up had been kind of broken as I was going on, and it wasn't food porn. I wasn't picking everything up and lingering over it and really wanting it. So the list went away, and then the speed continued, and I was able to do a food shop. It was brilliant. It really was, honestly, it was fantastic. The next layer, oh hang on, my light's just gone off. Oh, hey, hello. The next layer was that then obviously what was happening is I was got quicker, brilliant, I could do food shop, but I was buying the same stuff all the time. So the next layer was then bringing in some of my food challenges and trying to put those into the shopping. So if my food challenge was a different type of bread, when I got to the bread aisle, then I had to spend a little bit more time because I was buying different types of bread. When the food challenge was full fat yogurt, I was having to spend a little bit more time because I was choosing a full fat yogurt, but I'd had that speed in there already. And I knew that those food challenges, it was just a couple of extra bits, so it all kind of like worked in my head, really. So basically, to cut a very long story short, to make this a brief, less than 10-minute chat, firstly, if lists work for you, stick to a list brilliantly. They didn't work for me. So number 1 for me was having a period of time where someone else just totally took over the food shopping. Number 2 was trialing a list and finding out that it didn't work for me, but it might work for you. Number 3 was setting a timer, making myself leave the supermarket, go to the checkout as soon as that timer went off, regardless of what I'd bought, and then over time I worked my way quicker and quicker through the supermarket. Number 4 was sticking to the timer, but then adding new things in from my food hierarchy list or my challenge list to make sure I was buying slightly different things as I went through. I can food shop now. I can. It's been very recent that I've stopped looking at labels and things like that, and I'll do another video about that one, because that had to go back to basics a little bit with that one. But if you follow those steps, if you're worried about food shopping or you're struggling with it, it worked for me, so it might just work for you. Anyway, Amy's about to finish guides, and I'm lying, not going to guides, I'm about to go to my class. Sorry, it's the same place as guides. I forgot what day I was on. You take care, I'll see you soon, bye.